The sun peeks through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the framed photos of my late husband John and our son Michael. It's been 5 years since John passed, and the house feels emptier with each day. I sip my coffee, lost in thought, when a sudden knock at the door startles me. I open it to find Eliza, Michael's ex-wife, standing there with a suitcase. "Marge, I need your help," she pleads, her eyes welling up with tears. I hesitate, remembering the pain she caused Michael during their divorce. But seeing her like this, I can't turn her away. "Come in, Eliza. What's going on?" She steps inside, her designer heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "I lost my job, and I have nowhere else to go. Can I stay with you for a while? Just until I get back on my feet." Something about her story doesn't sit right with me, but I nod. "Of course, your family. You can stay in the guest room." Eliza hugs me, her expensive perfume overwhelming my senses. "Thank you, Marge. You're a lifesaver." As she settles in, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to her story. She spends hours on the phone, speaking in hushed tones, and leaves the house at odd hours. When I question her, she brushes me off, saying she's job hunting. Days turn into weeks, and Eliza shows no signs of leaving. I notice new designer clothes in her closet and expensive jewelry on her dresser. How can she afford these things without a job? One evening I confront her. "Eliza, I thought you were struggling financially, but I see you buying all these expensive things. What's really going on?" She laughs, a harsh sound that sends a chill down my spine. "Oh, Marge, you're so naive. I have my ways of getting what I want." I stand my ground, my voice firm. "I won't have any illegal activities under my roof, Eliza. You need to leave." Her eyes narrow, and she steps closer, her voice low and threatening. "You can't kick me out, Marge. I'm family, and if you try, I'll make your life a living hell." Fear grips my heart, but I refuse to let her see it. "Get out of my house, Eliza. Now." She grabs her purse and storms out, slamming the door behind her. I sink into a chair, my hands shaking. What have I gotten myself into? That night I lay awake, my mind racing. I know Eliza won't give up easily. She's always been manipulative, even when she was married to Michael. I need to find a way to protect myself and my home. I think back to John's old police connections. Maybe they can help me gather evidence against Eliza without putting myself in danger. I make a mental note to reach out to his former partner, Dan, in the morning. As the sun rises, I feel a renewed sense of determination. I won't let Eliza destroy the peace I've worked so hard to build. I'll fight back, no matter what it takes. She may think she can control me, but she has no idea who she's dealing with. I am Marge Thompson, and I will not be intimidated in my own home. Over the next few weeks, Eliza makes herself at home in my house. She sleeps till noon, leaves her dirty dishes in the sink, and expects me to clean up after her. I bite my tongue, trying to keep the peace, but my patience is wearing thin. One afternoon, I come home from the grocery store to find Eliza lounging on the couch, surrounded by shopping bags from expensive boutiques. She barely acknowledges me as I put away the groceries. "Eliza, I thought you said you were struggling financially," I say, trying to keep my voice calm. "How can you afford all these new clothes?" She rolls her eyes. "Don't worry about it, Marge. I have my ways." I frown, a sense of unease growing in the pit of my stomach. "What do you mean, your ways? Are you doing something illegal?" Eliza sits up, her eyes narrowing. "You know, for someone who's supposed to be helping me, you sure ask a lot of questions. Maybe you should mind your own business." I feel my anger rising, but I take a deep breath. "This is my house, Eliza, and as long as you're living under my roof, it is my business." She stands up, grabbing her purse. "Fine. If you're going to be like that, I'll just leave." I watch as she storms out of the house, slamming the door behind her. Part of me feels relieved, but I know this isn't the end. Eliza's not the type to give up easily. Later that evening, I'm washing dishes when I hear a knock at the door. I open it to find my neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, standing on the porch with a worried expression on her face. "Marge, I hate to bother you, but I thought you should know," she says, her voice low. "I've seen some strange people coming and going from your house late at night, and I've heard loud arguments too. Is everything okay?" My heart sinks. I had no idea Eliza was causing trouble with the neighbors. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Johnson. My daughter-in-law has been staying with me, and we've had some disagreements. I'll talk to her and make sure it doesn't happen again." Mrs. Johnson nods, but I can see the concern in her eyes. Just be careful, Marge. I don't want to see you get hurt. I thank her and close the door, my mind racing. I need to find out what Eliza's up to before she drags me into something I can't get out of. The next morning, I wake up early and start searching Eliza's room. I know it's a violation of her privacy, but I can't shake the feeling that she's hiding something. As I rummage through her drawers, I find a stack of credit card statements with my name on them. My heart stops as I realize she's been using my identity to open new accounts and rack up debt. I confront her as soon as she walks in the door. How could you do this to me, Eliza? I trusted you and you betrayed me. She laughs, a cruel sound that sends shivers down my spine. Oh, please. You were so easy to fool. A little sob story, and you let me right in. You're pathetic, Marge. I feel my anger boiling over. Get out of my house, Eliza. I won't let you ruin my life like this. She smirks, crossing her arms. And what are you going to do about it? Call the cops? I'll just tell them you gave me permission to use your credit cards. It's your word against mine. I realize with a sinking feeling that she's right. She's backed me into a corner, and I don't know how to get out. But one thing's for sure. I won't let her win. I'll find a way to stop her, no matter what it takes. The situation with Eliza is getting out of hand. More neighbors have come to me, complaining about the noise and the suspicious characters hanging around my house at all hours of the night. I'm starting to feel like a prisoner in my own home. I've tried talking to Eliza, but she just brushes me off or gets defensive. I'm not doing anything wrong, she insists, her eyes flashing with anger. You're just being paranoid. But I know better. I've seen the evidence of her lies and deceit scattered throughout the house. Credit card statements, strange packages, and cash hidden in her room. I can't ignore it any longer. One evening, I decide to confront her once and for all. I wait until she comes home, stumbling through the door with a group of rough-looking men. The stench of alcohol and cigarettes fills the air. Eliza, we need to talk, I say, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. She rolls her eyes. Not now, Marge, I'm busy. I stand my ground. No, we're doing this now. I know what you've been up to, and it needs to stop. The lies, the stealing, the illegal activities, I won't have it in my house. Eliza's face twists into a sneer. You don't know anything, you old hag. You're just jealous because I'm living my life while you're stuck in this boring, empty house. Her words cut deep, but I refuse to let her see how much they hurt. This is your last chance, Eliza. Either you clean up your act, or you get out. I won't let you destroy everything I've built. She laughs, a harsh, grating sound. You can't kick me out. I have nowhere else to go. And if you try, I'll make sure everyone knows what a horrible person you are. I'll tell them how you mistreated me, how you're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see anyone else happy. I feel my anger rising, but I force myself to stay calm. I'm not afraid of you, Eliza. I've dealt with worse than you in my life, and I won't let you bully me in my own home. She steps closer, her face inches from mine. We'll see about that. You have no idea what I'm capable of. With that, she turns and storms out of the room, leaving me shaking with rage and fear. I know I can't let her win, but I'm not sure how to stop her. The next day, I find my tires slashed and my mailbox smashed. I have no proof it was Eliza, but I know in my gut that she's responsible. She's trying to intimidate me, to make me back down. But I won't give in. I've faced tougher challenges in my life, and I've always come out stronger. I start documenting everything, keeping a record of Eliza's actions and the damage she's causing. I know I'll need evidence if I want to get her out of my life for good. Late one night, I hear Eliza arguing with someone on the phone. She's yelling, her voice filled with anger and frustration. I creep closer, trying to make out what she's saying. I don't care what it takes, she hisses. I want that money, and I want it now. And if you don't get it for me, I'll make sure you regret it. My heart races as I realize the extent of her crimes. She's not just stealing from me. She's involved in something much bigger and more dangerous. I know I can't handle this on my own anymore. I need help, and I need it fast. With a heavy heart, I pick up the phone and dial the number of an old friend, someone I know I can trust. It's time to take action, before it's too late. I wait anxiously for Dan, my late husband's former partner, to arrive. When I hear the knock on the door, I rush to answer it, relief washing over me as I see his familiar face. "Marge, what's going on?" he asks, concern etched in his features. "You sounded upset on the phone." I usher him inside, glancing around to make sure Eliza isn't home. "It's my daughter-in-law, Eliza. She's been staying with me, and I think she's involved in something illegal." Dan's eyes narrow. "What makes you say that?" I take a deep breath and begin to explain everything. The late-night visitors, the overheard phone conversations, the evidence of theft and fraud. Dan listens intently, his face growing more serious with each revelation. "Marge, this is serious," he says when I finish. "If what you're saying is true, Eliza could be looking at some heavy charges. We need to gather more evidence and build a solid case against her." I nod, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "I'm scared, Dan. She's made threats against me, and I don't know what she's capable of." He places a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Don't worry, Marge. I won't let anything happen to you. We'll get to the bottom of this, I promise." Just then, the front door slams open, and Eliza storms in, her face twisted with rage. "What the hell is going on here?" she demands, her eyes darting between me and Dan. I stand up, trying to keep my voice steady. "Eliza, this is Dan. He's here to help me deal with the situation you've gotten us into." She scoffs, rolling her eyes. "I don't need any help, especially not from some washed-up ex-cop. This is none of your business, so why don't you both just stay out of it?" Dan steps forward, his voice calm but firm. "I'm afraid it is our business, Eliza. Marge has evidence of your illegal activities, and we can't just ignore that. It's time to come clean and face the consequences of your actions." Eliza's face turns red, and she clenches her fists. "You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not doing anything wrong, and you can't prove otherwise." I shake my head, feeling a surge of anger. "Stop lying, Eliza. I know about the stolen credit cards, the fraudulent charges, the shady deals. It all ends now." She takes a step towards me, her eyes blazing with fury. "You think you can just kick me out and ruin my life? I won't let that happen. I'll make you pay for this, Marge. You'll regret ever crossing me." Dan moves between us, his hand on his hip where I know he keeps his gun. "That's enough, Eliza. I won't let you threaten Marge any longer. You have two choices. Either you leave now and never come back, or we call the police and let them handle it." For a moment, Eliza looks like she might lunge at him, her face contorted with rage. But then she seems to think better of it, taking a step back and grabbing her purse. "Fine, I'll go. But this isn't over, Marge. You'll see. You can't get rid of me that easily." With that, she storms out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I collapse onto the couch, my hands shaking with adrenaline and fear. Dan sits down beside me, his voice gentle. "You did the right thing, Marge. I know it wasn't easy, but you stood up for yourself and for what's right. We'll make sure Eliza pays for what she's done." I nod, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. "Thank you, Dan. I couldn't have done this without you." He smiles, patting my hand. "That's what friends are for, Marge. We'll get through this together, no matter what." The next few days are tense, with no sign of Eliza. I can't help but feel like the calm before the storm, knowing that she's out there somewhere, plotting her next move. I try to go about my daily routine, but I'm constantly on edge, jumping at every noise and shadow. Dan checks in on me regularly, offering his support and reassurance, but even his presence can't fully ease my fears. Late one night, I'm startled awake by the sound of shattering glass. I bolt up in bed, my heart pounding in my chest. I grab the baseball bat I've started keeping by my bedside and creep down the stairs, my hands shaking. As I round the corner into the living room, I see a figure standing by the broken window, silhouetted against the moonlight. I flip on the light switch, and my blood runs cold as I recognize Eliza's face, twisted with rage. "What are you doing here?" I demand, my voice trembling. "I thought I made it clear that you're not welcome in my home anymore." She laughs, a harsh, grating sound that sends shivers down my spine. "You really thought you could get rid of me that easily? I told you, Marge, you can't win against me. I always get what I want, one way or another." I grip the baseball bat tighter, trying to steady my nerves. "I'm not afraid of you, Eliza. I won't let you intimidate me anymore." She takes a step towards me, her eyes glinting with malice. "Oh, but you should be afraid, Marge. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I've ruined people's lives before, and I won't hesitate to do it again." I feel a surge of anger, fueled by the months of fear and frustration. I won't let you destroy my life, Eliza. I've worked too hard to build it, and I won't let you take it away from me. She lunges at me, her hands outstretched like claws. I swing the bat, feeling it connect with her shoulder with a sickening thud. She cries out in pain, stumbling backwards. "You bitch!" she screams, clutching her arm. "You'll pay for that!" I stand my ground, holding the bat in front of me like a shield. "No, Eliza, you'll pay for what you've done. I've given you every chance to change, to make things right, but you've thrown it all away. Now you'll face the consequences of your actions." She glares at me, her eyes filled with hatred. "This isn't over, Marge. I'll make you regret the day you ever crossed me." With that, she turns and flees out the broken window, disappearing into the night. I sink to the floor, my legs giving out beneath me as the adrenaline fades. I know that this is only the beginning, that Eliza won't give up until she's had her revenge. But I also know that I'm not alone in this fight. I have Dan, and the evidence we've gathered, and the strength of my own convictions. I pick up the phone and dial Dan's number, my hand still shaking. "She was here," I say when he answers, my voice hoarse with emotion. "Eliza broke into my house. I think it's time to take this to the police." Dan arrives within minutes, his face grim as he surveys the damage. "You did the right thing, Marge. We have enough evidence to put Eliza away for a long time. She won't be able to hurt you anymore." I nod, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. I never wanted things to come to this, but I know that I can't let Eliza's toxicity poison my life any longer. As the police arrive and begin taking statements, I feel a sense of clarity wash over me. I know that the road ahead won't be easy, but I also know that I'm ready to face whatever challenges come my way. I am Marge Thompson, and I will not be broken. In the days following Eliza's violent outburst, I find myself constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for her to strike again. But as the weeks pass with no sign of her, I begin to wonder if perhaps she's finally given up. Still, I know better than to let my guard down completely. I meet with Dan regularly, discussing our plans to gather evidence against Eliza and bring her to justice. "I've called in some favors with my old contacts at the police department," Dan tells me over coffee one morning. "They're willing to help us set up surveillance and track Eliza's movements." I nod, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "I just want this to be over, Dan. I'm tired of living in fear, always wondering when she's going to strike next." He reaches across the table and takes my hand, his eyes filled with understanding. "I know, Marge, but we're going to make sure she pays for what she's done. You're not alone in this." I smile, feeling a surge of gratitude for his unwavering support. "I don't know what I would do without you, Dan. You've been my rock through all of this." He grins, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Well, what are friends for if not to help take down evil daughter-in-laws?" We both laugh, the tension of the past few weeks momentarily lifted. It feels good to have a moment of levity amidst the chaos. Over the next few days, Dan and I worked tirelessly to gather evidence against Eliza. We set up hidden cameras around my house, hoping to catch her in the act of stealing or vandalizing. We also reach out to some of her former associates, people she's burned in the past. Many of them are more than willing to provide statements against her, eager for a chance at their own revenge. As the evidence mounts, I begin to feel a sense of hope, a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe, just maybe, we can finally put an end to Eliza's reign of terror. But even as we make progress, I can't shake the feeling that Eliza is still out there, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. I find myself jumping at every noise, my heart racing at the slightest provocation. One evening, as I'm washing dishes in the kitchen, I hear a sound that makes my blood run cold. It's the creaking of a floorboard, the same one that always squeaks when someone steps on it. I freeze, my hands still submerged in the soapy water. I listen intently, straining to hear any other signs of movement. And then I hear it again, louder this time. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving towards the kitchen. I reach for my phone with shaking hands, ready to dial 911. But before I can even unlock the screen, a figure appears in the doorway, a silhouette backlit by the hall light. "Hello, Marge." Eliza's voice is cold, dripping with malice. "Did you really think you could get away from me that easily?" I back away, my heart pounding in my chest. Eliza, please, don't do this. We can talk about this, find a way to resolve things peacefully. She laughs, a harsh, grating sound that sends shivers down my spine. It's too late for that, Marge. You've pushed me too far, and now you're going to pay the price. She takes a step towards me, her eyes glinting with a dangerous light. I glance around frantically, looking for something, anything to use as a weapon. My gaze lands on a heavy, cast-iron skillet sitting on the stove. I lunge for it, my fingers closing around the handle just as Eliza reaches for me. I swing with all my might, feeling the satisfying crunch of metal against bone. Eliza cries out in pain, stumbling backwards. You'll regret that, she hisses, clutching her bleeding face. I'll make you suffer for this, Marge. I'll destroy everything you love, everyone you care about. But even as she speaks, I feel a sense of calm wash over me. I know that I'm not alone, that I have Dan and the evidence we've gathered on my side. No, Eliza, I say, my voice steady and strong. You're the one who's going to pay for your crimes. I'm not afraid of you anymore. After the confrontation with Eliza, Dan and I know that we need to act fast. We can't risk her catching wind of our plans and disappearing before we can bring her to justice. We decide to set a trap, using my house as bait. I'll pretend to leave for a weekend trip, giving Eliza the perfect opportunity to break in and steal from me once again. But this time, we'll be ready for her. Dan helps me set up hidden cameras throughout the house, connected to a live feed that he can monitor from a nearby location. As I pack my bags and make a show of leaving, I feel a mix of nervousness and excitement. I know that this is a risky plan, but I also know that it's our best chance at catching Eliza red-handed. I drive to a nearby hotel, where I'll be staying for the next few days. Dan and I stay in constant communication, keeping each other updated on any developments. For the first day, there's no sign of Eliza. I try to distract myself with books and television, but I can't shake the feeling of anticipation, the sense that something big is about to happen. And then, on the second night, I get the call from Dan. She's here, he says, his voice tense with excitement. She just broke in through the back door. I rush to his location, my heart pounding in my chest. When I arrive, he's already got the video feed up on his laptop screen. I watch as Eliza moves through my house, her movements furtive and quick. She rifles through my drawers and cabinets, stuffing jewelry and cash into a backpack. But then, something unexpected happens. Eliza starts talking to herself, muttering under her breath as she goes about her business. At first, I can't make out what she's saying, but as I listen closer, I realize that she's revealing her entire plan, laying out the details of her scheme like a villain in a movie. Those idiots have no idea what's coming, she says, a smirk on her face. Once I've drained Marge's accounts and sold off her valuables, I'll disappear without a trace. They'll never be able to find me. I look at Dan, my eyes wide with shock. Are you getting this? I whisper, hardly daring to believe our luck. He nods, a grin spreading across his face. Every word, she's just sealed her own fate. We continue to watch as Eliza moves through the house, spilling more and more of her secrets with each passing minute. She brags about the people she's exploited, the lives she's ruined without a second thought. And then, just when I think it can't get any better, Eliza starts talking about her next target. That old lady down the street, the one with the yappy little dog? She's next on my list. I bet she's got a fortune stashed away in that tacky little house of hers. I feel a surge of anger, mixed with a grim sense of satisfaction. Eliza has no idea that she's just given us everything we need to put her away for good. As she finishes up her raid and slips out the back door, Dan is already on the phone with the police. We've got her, he says, his voice filled with triumph. We've got all the evidence we need. I sink back in my chair, feeling a rush of relief wash over me. It's finally over. After months of fear and uncertainty, I can finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. I know that there's still a long road ahead, that Eliza will likely fight the charges with everything she's got. But I also know that I'm not alone in this fight, that I have Dan and the law on my side. And for the first time in a long time, I allow myself to feel a glimmer of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, everything is going to be okay. The day of Eliza's arrest is a blur of activity. Police swarm my house, taking statements and collecting evidence. I watch as they lead her away in handcuffs, her face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You think this is over?" she screams, straining against the officer's grip. "I'll make you pay for this, Marge. I'll find a way to make you suffer, even if it's the last thing I do." But even as her threats ring in my ears, I feel a sense of calm wash over me. I know that she's powerless now, that the law is on my side. In the days that follow, I work with Dan to secure my home and my finances. We change the locks, install new security systems, and freeze my credit to prevent any further fraud. It's a long and tedious process, but with each step I feel a little bit safer, a little bit more in control of my own life. And then finally, the day of Eliza's trial arrives. I sit in the courtroom, my heart pounding as the evidence is presented piece by damning piece. The surveillance footage from my house is played for the jury, showing Eliza's brazen theft and her unwitting confession. Witness after witness takes the stand, testifying to her cruelty and her callousness, and through it all, Eliza sits stone-faced, her eyes blazing with hatred every time they meet mine. But in the end, the verdict is unanimous. Guilty on all counts, with a sentence that will keep her behind bars for decades to come. As the judge reads out the decision, I feel a rush of emotion wash over me. Relief, certainly, but also a sense of sadness, a realization of all that has been lost. I think of the young woman Eliza once was, the bright and beautiful girl who captured my son's heart. I think of all the pain and suffering she's caused, the lives she's ruined in her relentless pursuit of greed and power. And I know that, in the end, this is the only way it could have gone, the only way to stop her, to protect the people she would have hurt. As I leave the courtroom, Dan by my side, I'm surrounded by a sea of reporters and well-wishers, people I've never met, strangers who have followed my story and rooted for me every step of the way. I'm overwhelmed by their kindness, their support. I've spent so long feeling alone, feeling like I was fighting this battle by myself. But now, I realize that I was never really alone at all. In the weeks that follow, I start to piece my life back together. I reconnect with old friends, I take up new hobbies, I learn to find joy in the simple things again. And through it all, I carry with me the lessons I've learned, the strength I've found within myself. I know now that I am capable of standing up for myself, of fighting for what's right, no matter how hard it may be. One evening, as I sit on my porch with Dan, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold, he turns to me with a smile. "You know, Marge, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met," he says, his voice filled with warmth and admiration. I feel a blush creep into my cheeks, a flutter of something like happiness in my chest. "I don't know about that," I say, shaking my head. "I just did what I had to do." But even as I say it, I know that it's more than that. I know that I've found a strength within myself that I never knew I had, a resilience that has carried me through the darkest of times. And as I look out at the world before me, at the beauty and the promise of a new day, I know that I am ready for whatever comes next. Ready to face the future with courage and with hope, knowing that I am not alone, that I am loved and supported by the people who matter most. It's a new beginning, a chance to start fresh and to build a life that is truly my own. And I am ready to embrace it with open arms, ready to see what adventures lie ahead.